Okay, my name is Lauren Price. My student number is N9406476, and this is my PEC Showcase video. And my tutor was Chris Blundell, and my tutorial was 9 AM on Tuesday. So, me, here's the context of my prac. So, I was at a P6 school in Brisbane. There was less than 80 students, so it was quite small, and it was low SES. My classroom was a Year 2 and 3 composite class with only 18 students. 3 of those were in grade 2, so mainly Year 3. The class as a whole generally had low literacy and low numeracy levels. Students came from complex backgrounds, the majority of them. Some had trauma backgrounds. There was an issue with absenteeism. So even though there were only 18 students, sometimes only 15 would be there on the day. And my supervising teacher was new to the school, but she does have 15 years experience. So the key learning intention that we decided to go with was in mathematics and fractions. So here are the relevant content descriptors for Year 2 and Year 3. And our learning intention was to understand the part-whole model of fractions. So there are lots of different models of fractions. So for example, my mind's gone blank, but there's like fractions in number lines, but we weren't doing that. So looking at the context framework for assessment, so what we've covered already is identifying the curriculum. For planning the course of study, my teacher and I planned that I would teach the sequential lessons of fractions. It's a new topic. I'd introduce it and teach it around the NAPLAN week. The next step usually is developing assessment. And then you would go on to the learning sequences and judgments and feedback. For me, what I did was I developed my diagnostic assessment. And then I didn't develop the rest until I had the results of my diagnostic. And that's because of the diverse range of students and their abilities. So I felt like, we had some students who struggled with addition and others who enjoyed challenges of multiplication and division. So quite a wide range, and to get a consistent goal was a bit tricky until I knew exactly what we were at. So for my plan, we had a diagnostic assessment I needed to do to see their prior knowledge, see what level we were at. Then some formative assessment we needed to give some feedback and make sure that we were meeting the students' needs. And in this case, we didn't have summative assessment. So my diagnostic assessment was the very start of the introduction to fractions. All I said was, we're going to be learning about fractions. So I need to know what you already know about fractions. And I gave them a sheet that it only said what I know about fractions. And they were to write or draw or show what their understanding was. They had no prompts until I noticed that most of them had no idea. They didn't write anything. So I put a picture on the screen of a pizza cut into 8s. And then some of them went, so they use a different colour to write what their thoughts were. Then we shared that as a whole class so that we can have some shared knowledge around fractions. And I chose that approach rather than having a test because some of the students do have anxiety around mathematics, and and I wanted that growth mindset as a class. So for them to be able to say, this is what we knew before and this is what we know now. Here are some examples of that. So you can see one student here chose to draw his understanding, which was someone saying, I don't know about fractions. This was our top student, so fractions are halves. They're 4 different pieces from something to make something. So that's, he's got some vocabulary there around fractions. He's got half, even though he's not said what that means, and 4 different pieces. Well, that's not a half, but the word pieces is showing me that he's understanding that it's parts, possibly of a whole. And we've got some drawings here. This one's showing me a misunderstanding. So fraction is when you rub 2 things or more together. So she's confused it with friction. And from that, I was able to see that I needed to work on teaching them writing, because none of the students had written a fraction in terms of 1/2. And no student had mentioned equal. A lot of students had left it blank or wrote, I don't know. So that I knew that I had quite a long way to go. So based on that, I decided we were only going to work with unit fractions. So where there's the numerator is 1. We were going to work with the year 2 curriculum as a baseline. And then we could have the possibility of using 3rds and 5ths for the year 3s as extension. And then I planned my learning experiences. And here's an example of one with folding paper to discuss whether or not their halves are equal or unequal. They did examples and non-examples. So folding a rectangle diagonally, is this equal? This is showing halves, and having that discussion, why is it not? So lots of problem solving going on. Then in the next lesson, the students completed this formative assessment task that I created. So I needed them to show me that they knew how to partition a shape, how to divide it into halves. I started with halves because that's the easiest one we could do. And then here they just had to identify which ones were showing halves. So examples and non-examples. And that's incorporating mental procedures and information domains of knowledge. And I would always be giving them feedback. So after they did that assessment, let me just find my next PowerPoint. After they did that assessment, I noticed that a lot of them had trouble with triangles. So they would do this. So in my PowerPoint for the lesson, I decided to incorporate this as a whole class. Does this triangle show halves? I got them to thumbs up or thumbs down. And, why do you think that? And then as a class, we revised this. No, it does have 2 parts, but they are not equal. This triangle is showing halves. It has 2 equal parts, really reinforcing that for the students. Let me resume. Now I've got quick time to show the evidence of impact. So this student, she started and she left it blank. She said she didn't know anything about fractions. And quickly though, when we did this activity, she got them all correct. So she either responded really well to the folding and the PowerPoint and that type of thing, or she may have worked with somebody, because I forgot to explicitly tell them not to. So that was on me. So this is formative assessment, but it's not clear to me exactly what her level is. So that's why I guess it's important to have lots of different ones. So here we have another assessment. I know she did this independently, and you can see here she's done quite well. So there's two errors here where she has made the mistake of, she's put her denominator as 9. So she's counted the white squares. So there's an error in understanding the denominator. That's all of the parts, which she's only doing with these larger numbers, which is quite good. So a more practice and she would get the hang of doing that. And she wasn't the only student that made that error. Then we did this fraction sort and she got it 100% correct. So these bits were separate and she had to cut them out and stick them in the corresponding column, 100%. And also I did an activity where it was a fraction art. So I had all these different coloured paper and cut into shapes, and their job was to use that, and they could make whatever artwork they could as long as they could partition their shape. And yes, you can see here they had to write the fraction, and here she's written 1/4. She's got a half there. She's got half of some squares here, and here she's attempted 1/11. So I'd have to unfold it to check that it's really 11. But from where she was to now, having no idea what a fraction is, you can clearly see that she has, she's got that concept. She knows that it's a whole and it's in parts now, and she's even showing that she can write them. Quickly, my improvements. So I would want to have clearer success criteria and learning intentions. I struggled a bit with that. I'd really want to do some backwards mapping. And I would like to do digital collection because I didn't do that before. Right, there's my references. And you figure out how to stop recording.